Good afternoon, and welcome to Separated by Water.
Ding ding.
My name is
Ding ding.
my name. What? Have we gone? What happened?
Yes, we're going. Yep.
Okay, we cut out there very quickly. So anyway, what I was saying was, welcome to Separated by Water, the podcast for fans in Ireland, North and South of English teams, ostensibly, but there are many more people getting involved, and we really love that. My name's Colin Campbell. I am a Spurs season ticket holder, which you can probably tell. Maybe it's not flu I have, but just deep depression. I'm not sure. And my good friend, co-host Paul Galt, whom you can see, is a lifelong Nottingham Forest fan. So that leaves us both with lots to talk about, maybe some of it good. But you're very welcome. It's great to be here. Paul, okay, let's get down to it. The most recent match was last night. Fulham 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Yep.
Okay, that certainly not what you were hoping for, not what you were expecting. Tell us what happened.
Well, I always have to say, caveat, first thing I'll say is anytime we go to Fulham's a bit of a bogey team to us. We'd never really do well at Craven Cottage. And last night was no exception to the rule. We done okay. We played a decent enough game. It was a silly penalty by Douglas Luiz. How he thought he was going to get away with it, I don't know. I've seen more penalties like that in the Sunday League than I have in the Premiership, to be honest. I intended to go to our Forest guys and send us their notes or whatever about it, but unfortunately I just a busy day with lead up to Christmas and never got it done. So if any of them are listening to us, please drop your comments and let us know what you thought of the game. What did I think of the game? I thought it was just okay. I thought a draw probably would have been a fairer result than a 1-0 victory. As I say, stupid penalty, loads of opportunities. Nothing that scared me. I think the form's still good, Colin. I don't think it was anything.
Okay.
You couldn't have said it was a despicable performance. You couldn't have said it was a very poor performance. And, I have to draw a comparison and I know we're going to do that in a minute. You lost 2-1 to Fulham. We lost 1-0 to Fulham. So we're both sort of in a similar balance to that there. I'm not going to eat time soon. I'm pretty happy with the way things are going. And I think that we'll, although our upcoming games, which we'll talk about in a minute, are quite worrying, to be honest, because we'll get, in the next 5 games, we're 3 of the top 4 to play in Man City, Villa and Arsenal. So what do we expect to get from that? We'll talk about that in a wee minute or two. Your weekend's football, remind me, who did you play Saturday?
We were beaten at home 2-1 by Liverpool, and there's been a whole hoo-ha about that, and a few issues about that. Where do I start? The game itself was like it had about 3 different coats on at different times. Am I pleased about it? You people will have seen it and heard it all. I'll try and give you my take on some of these issues. Pleased about aspects of it, but ultimately no. I think that whatever Xavi Simons was trying to do, I'm not sure what it was. Now, I've seen those given as red cards and not given as red cards, and that's life. It was stupid. Red card for stupidity. It's unfortunate because only a few weeks ago I was kind of seeing him as, the central player for us, and the game could go through him. He showed me glimpses that he might be able to do that. And ever since I said that, it was like a kiss of death. He went missing at Nottingham Forest and had an early shower or an early bath on Saturday. Our captain, Romero, I know he was incensed by the decision to give the second Liverpool goal. And really, I don't want to get into all these things, but really, a push, two-arm push in the back usually is given as a foul. And certainly in my 60-odd years, it has been. Having said that, I really think that Tottenham, could benefit from his more rational leadership, if there is such a thing within him. It's another defeat. People pick up on what was good, and the effort and the unity towards the end was all good, and I accept that. And in many ways, years ago, it would have been no great shame to lose to Liverpool, but it is, and it should be, to lose at home yet again. Is not good. I really think it's not, and everyone comes now and feels they have a chance at White Hart Lane. the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And we've got to do something about that. Frank notices that. Quite what he's doing, I'm not sure. But maybe talk more generally. I mean, we've got Palace coming up, Brentford, Sunderland, so it could be points. It may not
Let's
be.
do, let's do that now, Colin. Let's do that now. You're away to Palace, you're away to Brentford. You then have the high flying Sunderland coming to use at home,
Yeah,
and then you're Bournemouth. So that's your next four games. Get through them with me. Palace.
yeah.
Palace are going okay.
Well, look, in the normal scheme of things, in the normal scheme of seasons, you would kind of expect Tottenham to pick up 9, maybe 12 from those, certainly under a Poch era. However, on paper at the minute, Palace would be favourites at home to us. But I have a feeling and a hope that Palace, they have a lot on at the moment. They're playing tonight. They had a tiring game against the Finnish team. 2-each it ended up. They're going to have a game, and I think they should go for it tonight against Arsenal. And it may be that we'll just catch them on a weak moment, and I'm hopeful of that. So I'm thinking we could win that, yeah, believe it or not. Because we're away forms.
Yeah, away to Brentford then, followed up away to Brentford.
Brentford are good at home. We've said before that I think Keith Andrews has clearly set his stall out to say that Brentford will stay up this year because of their home form. Having said that, I think that Tottenham's away form has been pretty good. I'm going to go for a Spurs win there. Must be Christmas.
At
home to Sunderland.
It's surprising me.
Yeah, no, I don't know. And I haven't been drinking, believe you me.
Your away form is pretty good, in inverted commas.
Well, it wasn't until we got the City ground, of course, and deserted us.
Yeah.
Game against Sunderland, yep, I know Sunderland have been very good. I just have a feeling that they won't keep going that way. And again, I have a feeling Spurs can win those 3 games. And show us.
You reckon there's another one?
Some guts. Yeah, I'm going to go for that.
Enough.
Yeah. Well, you've never heard me talk that before.
No, that's optimism that I have never heard from you, to be honest. And it surprises me because after the run you've had, if we draw a comparison with Forest and Spurs, at the end of the day, this is a Forest Spurs podcast. You lost 2-1 to Fulham. We beat Liverpool 3-0. You lost 2-1 to Liverpool. So, I don't know. I don't know where your optimism's coming from. I think these are in a sticky patch. I think these are in a sticky period. It could come good. The problem I have is I don't know why you're in a sticky patch. It's lack of commitment by your players. I don't know. Has your keeper got plans to go somewhere else in January or the next summer? I don't know what's going on, and that's the honest truth. I don't know if you want to throw any light on it.
Well, I'll throw what light I can on it. I'm not, in the insider close to this. Yeah, and I give interpretations. I think as far as goalkeeper is concerned, I think there are some issues. I think that he's like a yin and yang. He's a great shot stopper, but there are other issues of stupidity. Initially when he came to us 2 seasons ago, he was criticised for his inability to deal with corners, and teams crowded the 6-yard box and when corners come in, and he gave away, or not he, but a number of goals were given away. He equally didn't seem to get much protection from his other players at the time. But they want him to come through the players, through the traffic, and catch the ball or punch it. Stop it going into our own net anyway. Then there seems to be this, that you mentioned a couple of times Fulham beat us 2-1. Yeah, and they were 2 up after about 4 or 5 minutes. And the second goal was one of the daftest things I've ever seen, where Vicario came out and rather than clear the thing to Rosed or hoof it as far up the pitch he could, he laid on a very good pass, which fought one pass following out Harry Wilson to curve the ball into an absolutely empty net. And this sort of about him being booed after that. I don't know, and that kind of thing might mean that either he decides he wants to go back to Italy. There's been a rumour of this. Or Spurs decide they need to do something about it. Now, doing something about it, I am not sure that the young lad Kinski is ready for game after game in the Premiership. Nor is Brandon Austin, and Spurs obviously think that too because they had brought in Kinski. So I would be watching how the situation goes with Trafford at Man City. I think he's a good goalkeeper, and he's ready to become a number 1. So See how that goes. Spurs form in general, yeah, it's up and down. It's terrible and shouldn't be. Criticise them, I think, appropriately about lack of commitment or effort. I'll go back to August when I said I wanted shape and commitment from this team, and it's sort of gone missing over the last lot of weeks, particularly the commitment. And I was there to see it at Forest, or see to not see it at Forest. And it was an embarrassment for anyone who holds Tottenham close to their heart. And I certainly do. It was an embarrassment to have them kind of representing your lifelong interests out there, fanning about, to be blunt. However, having said that, I did see something in the game against Liverpool, which
you wouldn't put any of that down to the performance of Forest. You just put it all down to a lack of performance from Spurs.
No, I think Forest were very, very good, but I think Forest were eager. I don't think they were that much more skillful man to man than Spurs were at the time, but I think they're good tactics. But I didn't think their tactics needed to be that good. I think Spurs played into their hands that day, and 2 of the 3 goals were appalling. And I think Forest were very. Don't get me wrong, Forest were good, but as much as Forest were good, I think Tottenham were bad, and I think that's my take on it. And when you do these things, you've got to be more objective. I've got to remove my emotional baggage or my emotional attachment to the team and the club, and try to be, for the benefit of anyone who's listening, not much more objective. And it's a cold place, and it has been for me as a Spurs fan this season, largely. I haven't seen much to excite me. Not in the Champions League, not really, not in the league. Apart from maybe the first 2 games where they beat Burnley and then beat City. Oh my God, are we on to something here? And all of a sudden that dissipated. Quite why I'm not sure. I do think, from my point of view, I think there are key issues here. If you want, maybe go on to them now. Just we'll close it up with Spurs.
Yeah.
I think Spurs have reached a massive point, and some of this I've said before, but to try to put it into a nutshell, coming towards the end, the halfway point, if you will, or just beyond of this season, and the end of the calendar year. People are, is it Thomas Frank's fault or whose fault it is? And you could probably draw, 2 columns and say his fault, not his fault. I've tried to do that. I'm trying to think of some of the things that are probably not Thomas Frank's fault. And I use fault in the broadest term, the comparative lack of investment over the last lot of years. And we'll go back to 2019 when Spurs reached the European, Champions League final, and where Liverpool went since and where Spurs have gone. The comparative lack of investment since then has seen our overall cumulative ability as a team diminish big time, and that will be reflected by scores and league positions and performance in the cups largely. Now people go, oh, Spurs were the 6th biggest spenders and blah 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 blah. Yeah, and what I'll say is yes, and what's your point? My point is that Spurs.
I'll make a point on that.
Go ahead.
I'll make a point on that.
Yeah,
the 6th biggest spenders, and he's finished up 17th last year. So that tells you that it's not all about investment. It's not all about investment. It's about what you do with that investment. It's how you structure your team. It's how you get that team working as a group together. So there has to be some correlation between 6th highest spending and where you finish in the league.
Well, before you see, it's a fair point, but before we were finishing 2nd, 3rd, 4th with the 6th or 7th highest spend, what I'm saying is I think it's how it's spent. In other words, to me, there's a world of difference between 10 million pound players and one 100 million pound player. And I think Spurs, the way they did with the Gareth Bale money, particularly, are infamous for that. Spelt too low, too many not quite good enough players. It's often said that to win a league, you need 8 very good players and 3 excellent ones. And I'm damned if I can find those 3 at the minute. And I mean, I'm used to have seen Harry Kane, Son, the teams under Poch from 1 to 11 were incredible. So there's nobody, I think, not with the best will in the world, there isn't anyone on the pitch at the minute that we can really emotionally invest in as our hero, Nobody like Harry, nobody like Heung-min, nobody like, Ericsson or even, Ndembele, Wanyama, Van, oh my God, Alderweireld, all of these super players, all internationals, all out there to win. And I was in Wembley when they beat Real Madrid, so on and so forth. There's not, it needs a reboot, now. The Lewis family have intimated that they're going to do that. So I think they've been poor transfer windows. We fannied about something terrible trying to get Esse from Palace, left at the last minute and became humiliated and embarrassed by him going to Arsenal. I mean, well, he was always going to Arsenal. No, he wasn't. Had we signed and sealed him in the proper way, he would be a Tottenham player now. That's an example of the penny pinching that we do sometimes, rather than throwing out the chest and saying this is what it takes. I think the legacy of Enoch, are we going to learn in the next month whether it was the legacy of Levy or the legacy of Enoch? If Enoch don't make a statement in January, I think that really their statement then is it's more of the same and we'll all lose a bit more heart. If they do make a big statement, will they trust Frank with the money that's required? And that takes me then to Thomas Frank. I said at the start I was intrigued by his appointment.
Okay, let's say they spend. Let's say they spend how many? Let's say they spend 200 million in January.
Yeah,
bringing quality
highly
players.
unlikely, but I know what you mean.
Are they going to continue to trust? Are they going to, whatever the figure might be, figure that makes a Spurs fan happy, if there is a figure that makes a Spurs fan happy, and I mean that flippantly, because honestly, it's starting to sound as if you're never happy. It does start to sound like that. But if they spend a figure that, let's say, you and Tim Houston are happy with, are they going to trust Thomas Frank with that money, with them players, or are they going to go?
That was a rhetorical question I was asking, and I worry about that, because we could be moving into a realm in which Thomas Frank has never been. You see, he suited the Levy look as somebody who seemed to be able to manage average cost players and get them to play above themselves. That's how Brentford would have been perceived under Thomas Frank. They were doing better than they probably should have been expected to do. And he seemed to be able to produce good forwards, Watkins, Tony, Mbeo, Thiago, so on. And all of that suited Levy down to the ground. But it may be that they don't foresee him dealing with $100 million, 80, whatever it is, type of player. And that's where Tottenham is in a knife edge at the minute. Because I think that where you can put the finger at Thomas Frank is poor performances. And there have been a number of them, particularly at home. And not a bit of wonder the fans get annoyed. And Paul Merson, of all people, stood up and says he shouldn't be attacking the Tottenham fans. Over 60,000 turn up and spent a fortune. And to watch that, and it's hard. It is hard.
Well, so let me bring Forest into the conversation. Yeah. Let me bring Forest into this conversation and we'll draw a comparison. Okay. Back in the day, back at the early of Dyche's reign at Nottingham Forest, when he was coming in, we had a conversation about whether he was just going to be a fireman, a gatekeeper to quell things, calm things down, or was he a man to move things forward? I looked up stats. And it says Sean Dyche's record in Nottingham Forest as of late 20 shows a strong start since he's October 2025, with wins against Porto, Liverpool, Leeds, and a draw against Man United and Storm Graz. Now, he's doing okay in Europe. He's doing very well in Europe. He has an average of 1.9 points per matches. And if you look at Thomas Frank is 1.3 points per match. So he's closer to a draw than he is a win, So I know he's not hasn't been there long enough. I know maybe at the end of the season we'll have a better conversation about this, but where does Thomas Frank fit in alongside is he good enough? Is he good enough for you? Or is he just another, as you would say, it's Sean Dyche?
Well, I'm not necessarily another Sean Dyche. I think that Sean Dyche is doing well, but I did ask a rhetorical question at the time. I think he loses as many as he wins, and was that the shape of Forest's form starting to come out? It takes a while. But and I do think, with great respect, at the minute the expectations still, are different for Forest than Spurs. Spurs have been in the Premier League for years and years and years. Forest are relatively new to coming back and need to settle themselves, and they will. Of course, they will. Is he good enough? I don't know. I hear people who don't want him sacked because they're saying, well, what's the point of sacking somebody else? And I agree with that. My point is that if I could have this word with the Levy kids and their advisors, I'd be saying, well, are you going to spend big? Are you going to make a statement here like a centre forward if Solanke's still injured? And if so, who do you trust with this? Now, who's available in January, God knows. Do I think he's good enough? I'm worried that he's not. And I have to say that.
Yeah.
And I'm not, this podcast isn't about going on and shouting the bits and banging the table because so-and-so's a melt or so-and-so's a muppet.
No, I know that, but we have to, sometimes passion goes into it and passion, and
yeah,
the love of our club.
I know it certainly did for you with Postecoglou. I know it did.
Well, absolutely, and he never was the right fit. I stand by that 100%. Okay, let's look at it. I think that Nottingham Forest have I would say a 60% good recruitment pattern. Who they hire, they rent, whoever they bring into the team, either on loan or purchase, it seems to go very well for them.
Yeah.
I think that the money they spend, it seems to go well. They've got a link into Brazil. They've got a link into various markets in South America, which seems to be working for them.
Yeah.
You're saying that they have to spend big. Spurs have to spend big. Villa haven't. Villa have not spent big in comparison to what you're saying. They have. I think I'm right to say this. And I'm not going to know the name of it, but I think they brought in 3 free transfers into that team who are all playing in the starting 11. So that rubbishes the thing that you need to buy a 100 million player instead of an 80 million player. So I
don't know. I mean, if you ask Unai Emery, what would change things? What would take you that little bit higher? He wouldn't be saying, another half a dozen players that don't cost anything. He would be saying probably 1, 2, or 3 genuinely world-class players. And that's what I'm talking about. I think you can improve a team. You can take a team from 18th to 15th or 18th to 10th with good players. I'm not talking about these players if they're not good. Of course, they're very, very good. But what I'm talking about is the game changer. The Declan Rice. The Rodri.
These are all individuals, Colin. They're all individuals. You need everybody playing as a team. You need 11 players playing together. One man doesn't make a team. You need 11 players playing collectively as a unit.
You do,
and playing with the same objective. And
of course you do.
I think over time,
but you need a good. You need 11 really good players.
Yeah, but why? Well, Aston Villa. I'm not talking really good players and bad players. I'm talking about expensive players and players who are not as expensive. So does it come down? What I'm asking you is fundamentally is the recruitment in Spurs? Is that where the problem is?
I think there has been a problem.
The money they're spending.
But I think that has been influenced by the cost of the players. Where it appears to me, and I think there's enough evidence that it's been a case where maybe the chairman has intervened at times over the cost of a player rather than the genuine worth. I think that players need to come into a team. There's 2 possibilities. A combination of possibilities. One is a new player comes into a team to fill a particular gap or a need, like centre half or a goalkeeper. They come in to perform well in that position, and they come in to make the team's collective stronger. And if they can do that, they can do that. And that's why a really good team, a really, really good team, will only make 1 or 2 changes because they're already there. And it's very difficult for them to improve that bit further. And that's where Tottenham had been under Poch, particularly, even under Mourinho for a while. Conte saw what he needed to do to get us from 4th to higher, and he couldn't get the backing, and he threw the head up as he always would. And that's Tottenham's issue. It's not about. I'm not using the money as so and so's. What I'm saying is, as an indicator, what I'm saying is that Tottenham need to make a statement for their own good, and that is to say we are big players, and what the big players in the world, in the world. We've got our ground, we've got our training ground, blah blah blah. The NFL comes, concerts come, all of those things that Levy salivated over. Wonderful. What we haven't got And what we've let drop off is the players on the pitch, the performances, and their achievements. And that needs to be sorted. Now, you can spend 10 years incrementally trying to get that, and we don't have that because people could lose interest.
Okay,
You know.
I'm going round in circles trying to get to a point here, so I'm going to try and ask you questions to
Well,
get to
okay,
the point.
get to the point. Get to the point. Okay.
No, but I can't get to the point because I seem to be missing the point. Do you think collectively the players at Spurs are better? Your starting 11 are better than the starting 11 at Forest.
Um, that's a hard call. I don't I know more about the Spurs players. I would say Spurs would shade that. Yeah,
Shader. Okay.
yeah. I think.
Do you think Sean Dyche is getting better at he's managing and getting more, as Nuno did and Ange didn't? Do you think that Sean Dyche is managing lesser quality players and getting more from them than Thomas Frank is?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Clearly.
I think you've got a shit manager. I think you've got a terrible
Well,
manager.
okay.
Excuse my
Well,
language.
maybe that's what it is. Then. Maybe that's what
No,
it
but
is.
but
As,
I asked the question of Tim on Thursday night. I was sitting beside him,
uh
and I said to him, "Tim, what are you going to do?" And he says, "We can't keep on sacking managers."
See that,
So
but
is
that's
it?
the point. You know,
But is it
Chelsea do.
recruitment of managers, Colin? Is it the recruitment of managers that's the problem, or is it the
Yeah,
managers? Look, I still look at what you call them walking by Thomas Frank 3 or 4 games ago, walking past him, Jed
Spence.
Spence walking past him, and that tells me that something's not right between the managers because every one of our players
Yeah,
goes up and shakes hands with Nuno and shakes hands with Dyche at the end of the game, and they're a unit. They're all
yeah. Fair
a
enough. Yeah.
unit.
You
No,
know,
I'm not.
I
I'm
think
not.
that what
I'm not poking the bear. I'm
I
not poking at them. I'm just asking. I'm trying to get to where where the problem is because I can't work out where the problem is at Spurs. I can't.
well, I think the problem is that good and all his team might be the overall quality of the team has drifted downwards over the last lot of years, and I think that Thomas Frank's problem, probably is that it fitted the criteria that Levy set for managers, that he wouldn't ask for too much, he wouldn't be awkward, and that he seemed to be able to perform punch above his weight with an average team. And Levy liked all of that. When Levy brought in Mourinho and brought in Conte, who were, you know, belligerent, knew what they wanted, and each of them had done well for a period of time with Spurs. And when they wanted to kick on, they fell out with Levy and they left. And Conte now has won the league. I think probably could win it again with Napoli. And I liked him a lot. And his first 3/4 season was probably the last season that I really, really enjoyed. And Bilbao was negative. No, I don't know what match they were watching. Beaten Leicester 3-1, beaten Newcastle 5-1, beaten Everton 5-0, beaten West Ham, beaten Arsenal 3-0, beaten City 3-2 up there. I know drawn 1-2 each, I think it was with Liverpool. No, that was
Yeah.
bloody good. And we were there and we were not to be beaten. And he drilled that in, and we'd already lost a number of the really good players from the Poch era. But he gave up the ghost, and that's what worries me, that it's not Frank's fault. And that brings me back to my question, that, well, if the Lewis family do come good and over the January and then the season's end windows start to really pump some money, I'm not saying we've got to spend, I mean the money to bring in top quality players in key areas, will they see him as the man to deliver the goods tactically and strategically? And it worries me that they won't. Now, does that mean, on the other side of the coin, they'll do nothing in January and sack him at the end of the year? I don't think we can afford to do that. But you wait for the World Cup to end and then see who's available. All these things can take time. That's hard to know, but I would rather we saw something moving forward in January. Yeah, I'd like to see a statement of
Yeah.
intent, to
Yeah.
be honest.
I texted you the other night. You didn't watch the match live. I did, and I I watched you up until the 20 minutes before, whenever Richarlison come on.
Yeah.
I saw desire from Richarlison when he came on, and I saw that he wanted to score and he wanted to win that game, and he was running after everything. Now, how he didn't get a red card when he jumped on top of the keeper inside or the player inside the net that time and gave him a bit of a shake and run out. But the place but he brought. We often talk about Richarlison and what he brings to your team, and I think that he brought a lot to your team the other night. He brought desire. He brought a wish to win, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. So. Okay,
Well, he seems
I
to
didn't
do
want
that.
that to
He
turn
seems to
into a
do that
Spurs
against
battering
Everton.
conversation, but I'm trying to
No,
understand what you're saying, you know.
he does that against Liverpool because he's ex-Everton. You know, it seems to bring something out of him. We need that player for 90 minutes, not 20. But you know, I will take it, and he does have a kind of a highly emotional charge at times. But he's not, you know, he's not the answer to taking us forward. That thing to me, that's clear. And I don't think there is anyone there. I'm not blaming the players up front are doing their best, but there's no natural centre forward there really. Moani is a young lad, but you know, there needs to be leadership going through, genuine leadership going through the team, a sense of purpose, and a sense of entitlement, if you will, you know, and that comes with we're good and we know we are, you know, that sort of way. Okay, you know, well, I mean, for me, those are the things I think I would hold against Frank. Poor performances, the disciplinary record falling apart a wee bit, and seems to be no leadership on the pitch.
Yeah, well, I think the disciplinary, especially if that starts to fall apart, I think the manager to lose his players because there's no respect for what he's saying to them. But look, we'll wait and see. As I say, the next 4 games are going to tell a lot for you. My God, they're going to tell a lot for us. We have Man City. I can't. If we get a draw, the only hope I have is 2 of these are at home. Man City, Everton. You saw that it is turning out to be a bit of a fortress. I'm hoping we can get at least 4 points from them 2 games. A draw against City and a win against Everton at the City ground. That's my wish. Villa, unknown quantity. West Ham, I hope we can get a win, but you never know going away. And then we've got Arsenal, and so we've 5 tough games. And I think seriously, whenever our next episode will be the Wrexham. We've got Wrexham in the FA Cup. We've got I'll tell you about that in a minute or 2. We've a run of games there that I think we could be for the lead we have over those in the relegation area. I think is very fragile whenever it comes to you start playing teams like that there. But you never know. Maybe we'll get a point, or when we don't expect it, maybe we'll get a win where we don't expect it. I certainly didn't expect a win against you guys. I thought a draw there would have been a good result for us. Maybe City, we're getting them maybe at a bad time or a good time. I don't know. I haven't looked at them. I know that Sunderland, you're getting them a good time. There's six players going to the AFCON. Bournemouth could be a shot in the dark for you. 6 points there, you know, or 3 points. So yeah, you reckon 12 points. I'm going to say for our next 4 games, I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go 8 points for 4 games. That's the maximum I can see us getting from them, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly you're really that run there. I think City will be hard to beat. I hope you beat Arsenal, and you really need to beat West Ham, like it or not, you know, and sort of condemn them, you know. Wolves and Burnley kind of struggling. West Ham, you still probably think under Nuno they could do something. You sometimes think they will, and then you look and no, they're not going to do anything. He may have a few ideas in the window, but I think the big, you know, they're all big games, of course they are, and there's only 3 points for each game. They're the same 3 points, but I think the one you really want to make sure you win there is the West Ham game, you know, and the Arsenal one.
The problem with Nottingham Forest going to West Ham and getting 3 points there is that we're going to our own manager that knows our players nearly better than Dyche does. And he'll know where their weaknesses is. He'll know where their strengths are. And he'll know how to play against them. We seem to be picking John Victor over Matt Sells now as our keeper. I don't know, is there an injury there? Do you put an injured keeper on the bench? I don't know, do you? I thought Gunn would have been on the bench last night because Victor was the first choice. John Victor was first choice. But that's a matter again, I don't know the details of that. But anyway, we'll wait and see. Okay, Colin, that was great. I want to take the opportunity to wish everybody a very, very happy Christmas. Thanks for all the support throughout the year.
Well,
Oh dear.
in keeping with my very festive positivity, in terms of Spurs results anyway, I would like to wish you all a very, very merry, peaceful Christmas. Healthy, safe, sound, and with your families. And remember, football is absolutely wonderful. And we all love it, but it's not the most important thing on earth. So always remember that too. And we I certainly look forward to joining everyone in the new year, God willing. And to a few good results and maybe another Spurs trophy. Who knows? Who knows?
I agree with absolutely everything you say. I agree with absolutely everything you say, except for the bit where football means nothing unless you beat Spurs 3-0. You Reds. I've been told last week I didn't gloat enough. I didn't gloat enough, so I'm having a wee gloat.
Well, you know what I said goes around, comes around. I did my bit. I wore the Forest jersey. I'd have a few saunas and get fumigated after that. And I did, but I certainly at the time, what could I do? I had to be objective about it. I think I was helped on the day by a nice dose of lovely Sauvignon Blanc, which cooled my order.
Hospitality, boundless hospitality. Once again, Jill, thank you very much. Two episodes coming up. I can't say too much about one of them at the minute, but we're very much hoping that we could get a Nottingham Forest hero on the podcast. Watch this space. Okay. I don't know. I just hope we can. We have the next episode up, which is Forest against Wrexham. The game is on the 9th of January. We will have Dave Berry, who's on with us all the time. We met when we sat with him last week, for the preview of that game, along with Rack Davies, who I'm told is a Wrexham season ticket holder. I met him. And when I chatted to him, I knew he had the right to come out to the podcast. And it just so happened we were drawn to get away from Wrexham. So I met him in June in Portugal. And I've kept him his number and kept him aside until now. So he's agreed to come on with us. So we'll do that on the 7th, Wednesday the 7th. So we'll have a preview of that. Who have you got in the FA Cup, Colin? Who have you got?
Yeah, well, the small matter of Aston Villa at home. So we'll be previewing that too. That's right. What I'm hoping, against hope, is that Villa take their eyes off it a wee bit and focus on the league and the Europa League. I really do. Otherwise, I'd be worried. They've already beaten us at home this year, and I think they're really playing it, out of their skins. They have a series of big league games, so I'll see. But I am not proud. What I'll say is I hope they're focused on other things and make a few changes that night. But two big games for Forest, and each of them, I think Forest and Spurs will need a cup run this year, Definitely.
Yeah, tell me, just one final question. Are Villa contenders for the league now?
No, in my heart of hearts, I don't think so. For the reasons that I'd said earlier, I think they're maybe one or two short in the absolutely top-class department. However, what I would say is the keeper, I would say that Rodgers, I love him again. I think he directs traffic there well. If Watkins finds his shooting boots and Mings gets over his injury, I think they'll be there or thereabouts, but I just don't see them winning it. No, I don't.
I think Rodgers.
I think Emery's wise. Yeah. Oh, 2 great goals on Sunday. Yeah. Should have had some good wins, but the big games coming up, and really, that will be the telling of the tale. If they can come through these relatively unscathed, good luck to them. But then the last time Aston Villa won the league, they weren't going to win it that year either. Ipswich were going to walk it. And lo and behold, Gary Shaw, the late Gary Shaw. What a team they had too. And they went on to win the European Cup the following season, Peter With and so on and so forth. So you just never know. Villa, one of those teams you couldn't dislike, unlike
true team.
At least one of the 2 teams above them, yeah.
They're a true team. They're a true team. Okay, thank you. Okay, guys, happy Christmas. We'll talk to you. Keep your eyes on pop-ups, and we'll see you at some stage over Christmas. Colin, thank you. Yeah. Happy Christmas to you and Deirdre and the boys, and I'll pass that on. And happy Christmas, and have a safe and beautiful season, guys. Take care.